Hello people, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Sky Eye 72-in-1 plug-and-play video game system. No console required, as is per usual with these sort of things. Created by Yika Creative Limited, or Yika Creative Limited, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And some unknown date, I do not know what the date is, but before we start this thing up, I'm just going to... Actually no, you know what, let's start the footage right now, just so I can describe the controls when I run out of things to say. So yes, as you can see, when you start it up, you get this nice little menu with poorly drawn graphics and an annoying tune. And when you go into the game, first game is Garrow Man, as it's called on the menu, but it's actually called Guard Man on the title screen. I'm guessing it's probably short for Garden Man, I'm not really sure. But yes, as you can see, we are some bloke who can transform into 5 other blokes, each of whom have a special skill. So the yellow one can shoot, the green one can climb up vines, which are quite clearly ripped off from Super Mario Bros. 2. The red one can use a hammer, like the characters from Don Doku Don. And then there's a few other ones, one of them can swim, and a couple of others I can't remember what they do. I think one that can fly, but whatever. I just stick with the yellow one from those part because he's generally the most useful one of the lot. So yes, this is basically a really awful platformer. It's not the worst one I've ever seen, I suppose, but it's still pretty awful. The movement, as you've noticed, is quite choppy. In the game, that is, not the controls. And that brings me to the control itself. Now, the controls... it has an analog stick and a D-pad, both of which work, and I can't really speak for the D-pad because I never used it at all during this sort of recording this footage whole thing, or whatever the hell this is. I don't even know, like, yeah, I can't say since to save my life, but yeah, let's forget about that. D-pad feels alright, but screw it, I'd rather just use the analog stick, which can press down, but as far as I'm aware, pressing it down doesn't actually do anything in the game. So that's kind of pointless. But the analog stick in itself feels alright. No complaints there. The face buttons, for some odd reason, are represented with the suits from a deck of playing cards for some reason. I don't know why. I don't really understand that. But they work as, you know, A, B, Turbo A, Turbo B, so can't really complain there. And they, you know, they got a fair bit of pressure to them when you press them, so that's alright. No complaints there. There's a reset button to reset the game to if you want to play a different one. Start and select, they work as you'd expect. There's also an on and off switch to switch the console on and off, obviously. And a reset button, which you can use to switch the console on and off. Sorry, I already mentioned the reset button, didn't I? I can't even remember what I'm talking about anymore. There's also an LED to tell you that the thing is switched on, which is nice. And there's also a switch for 1-player and 2-player. Now, I haven't really tested this, but I believe if you switch to 2-player, it sort of switches the controls around so that it will sort of work for the 2-player mode. So essentially, if you go into a game and you select 2-player, when player 1 dies, then it will go in, you know, the controls will be set to 2-player, and you use that to play as the second player. You probably won't understand a word I'm saying, but anyway, here we are at the end of the level. I didn't get the key, so I didn't really bother playing it anymore. So game number 2 is Contact Energy, except it isn't. It's actually, as you will see in a second. No, it's actually Tiny Toon 3 Crazy Castle, which is actually the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle with a different title. This is what's funny is that this is not really a game you would expect to see on a multi-card, at least not on a plug-and-play system like this. So, for those who've never played this game, this is a pretty simple puzzle game, sort of. I'd say it's decent. It's not great by any means, but yeah, it's a game that's alright for like 5 or 10 minutes, and they do give you like a password when you complete the level anyway. So it's like a good game in short bursts. That's what I personally think, at least. I I don't understand. I don't understand this though. Like, why is Bugs Bunny being chased by a green Sylvester? I mean, last time I checked, it was in green, and I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I haven't watched Looney Tunes in years, but I don't remember. I don't remember Sylvester being one of Bugs Bunny's villains. I'm pretty sure it was Elmer Fudd, and I forget the monster thing. I can't remember what it was called. But I mean, wouldn't expect them to be chasing him instead, but whatever. Game number 3 is Pick-a-Man, or Frog Prince. And as you've probably noticed, yep, it's quite blatantly a hack of Super Mario. Not much more to say there. Although, Pick-a-Man is the name on the menu. And that, I believe, is actually another hack of Super Mario. Where it's basically the same thing as this, with different graphics. Where instead of playing as this bloke with green hair, or a frog, depending on which form you're in, you actually play as Pichu, and you have to evolve into Pikachu, and then I think you evolve into Raichu, but I can't remember. Just like Pokemon, obviously. But, yeah. Not much you can say about the game itself. It's just Super Mario. And as you will notice later on, a lot of the names on the menu are completely wrong. Trust me on that. But if we go back to the menu screen, that is when it does so on the footage. Game number 4 is actually a game called Football. And, well, it's exactly what it does on the tin. Unless you're American, in which case it is not what it does on the tin. It's what something else does on the tin. Or something like that. Yes, I am speaking complete gibberish today, thank you very much. So yes, the teams have been replaced with what I'm guessing are teams from the Asian Football Confederation, or whatever it's called. The AFC. I don't understand why they did that though, because, I mean, I would assume they would have probably sold this thing outside of Asia. I mean, they probably would have sold this in places like America and Europe. Not entirely sure on that, but I would assume that's what they would have done. And I'm playing as, I'm assuming South Korea, and it kept switching players randomly. I don't know why it did that. I'm pretty sure that's just the game being awful. I mean, I've never really been a fan of the Nintendo soccer game. And that's basically what it is, with different graphics and music. But Rescue Cook is, well, it's basically Donkey Kong Jr. I'm sure I've shown this a couple of other times on this channel. Chimes? I meant times, of course. But yes, it's Donkey Kong Jr. with different graphics. So I think I'm going to swiftly move on to the next title. And the next game is indeed Motorboat. Yes, Motorboat. This is a pirate original, I suppose you could call it. Created by Nice Code. And you'll find that most of the original games on here, well, most if not all of them, are complete rubbish. This is basically a really poor man's Road Fighter, even more so than Zippy Race ever was. And the big problem with this game is that every time you crash, you have to reset the level. It's also, another big problem is that it goes way too fast. But anyway, Snowfield Shoot. This brings up a big problem with the unit. There is no light gun built into the controller. So you can't actually play this game. So why did they even bother including it? I don't know. But yeah, I can't even attempt to play it because, like I said, there's no light gun. There's no way to use a light gun on this thing. I really blame that down to the software rather than the hardware, because they really shouldn't have included any light gun games. But here we have Small Dinosaur, or just Dinosaur, it's called in the menu. And this is probably the easiest game ever made. In fact, I should imagine this is probably even easier than any Barbie game ever made. And that is saying something. Not that I've ever played any Barbie games, I'm just saying. Basically, it's like Kaboom, except you don't get penalised for missing any of the stuff on the screen. So it's essentially Kaboom without the challenge, pretty much. It's also very slow and boring. This is just like that Christmas themed game on the NJ Pocket that I reviewed some time ago, But here, next up is Garden War, where we shall partake in a war in a garden. Whose garden, we shall never know. But someone who likes to breed tulips, by the looks of things, or whatever flowers are pink. I am not a botanist. But yes, this is basically a really awful Gallagher wannabe. I suppose that's the best way to describe it, at least. Basically, shoot at the stuff on the screen and try to avoid getting hit, which is harder said than done, because a lot of stuff attacks you. But anyway, here we have Bubble. And this is another really awful shoot 'em up, if you can even call it that. Essentially, what you have to do is you have to shoot bubbles at the fish to trap them in the bubbles, which makes no sense. But yeah, concept-wise, it seems like they tried to rip off Bubble Bobble and failed miserably. That's what I'm guessing, at least. Trap the fish in the bubbles, and that's about it, really. I mean, there really isn't much else I could say about this game. If a fish hits you, you lose HP. If HP goes down to 0, you lose your life. Well, that's what I'm assuming, at least. I haven't really bothered to play this game enough to actually test that, because I'm not that masochistic. It's an incredibly boring game, as you've probably noticed. Yes. And the level should be over in a minute. Well, hopefully less than that. Yep, shoot fish, shoot more fish, and there we go, level 1 complete. And with that, we shall thankfully move on to the next game. So now we have Go Bang, and this is actually that Gomoku Narabi game translated into English. Well, sort of. Most of the translation really doesn't make any sense. Like, as you can see at the bottom right, it says 0 wins and 0 were. I'm guessing were is supposed to say lose. I haven't got a clue what it actually stands for, but yeah, like the messages that come up when you win or lose make no sense. I'm just going to skip this a bit to the point where I actually get to the end of the game. So yeah, as you can see here, I've made 2 threes in a row. The opponent can't actually beat that. And despite that, it still says I lost. I don't understand what's up there. I've never really understood the rules of the game. Am I just supposed to not make it any sort of... whatever. Anyway, next up is Diamond. And I'm pretty sure I've shown this one before. But this version had different graphics. Not that it really makes much of a difference, but yes. It looks a bit less Arkanoid-y. To me at least. And yeah, as you might have guessed, it's basically Arkanoid. Now, they did change up the concept a little bit. Instead of breaking all the blocks, they instead make it so you have to touch a diamond at the top of the stage. Well, I say diamond, it looks more like a flower to me. But the problem is, the physics suck completely in this game. And with that, we shall move on to Road Fight. Except it's not actually Road Fight, it's actually Bicycle Race. And Bicycle Race, as you've probably noticed already, is a hack of Nintendo's F1 Race, released on the Famicom. And I've always been a fan of F1 Race. Then again, that's probably because I've always liked pole position. I personally think it's a good game. And I actually like this hack as well. As you can see, they've obviously changed the graphics, so they instead of driving an F1 car rather, you're riding a bike. Which to me makes more sense, because I never really understood the whole thing with F1 Race. I mean, because you would think that if you were racing an F1 car, you would be trying to be first in the race, but they don't actually tell you your position, you're just trying to beat the clock. Here it makes more sense to beat the clock as opposed to some opponents, in my opinion at least. And yeah, they've also taken a digit off the speedometer, or whatever it's called. So instead of doing 400 kilometers now, you're doing like 40, which again makes more sense, because I don't think Formula 1 cars can go 400 kilometers an hour. especially in our bike. I think bikes can go 40 kilometers an hour. I haven't really checked, but it makes more sense at least, in my opinion. And well, that's enough of that, I suppose. It's a decent enough game actually. Don't really mind that hack actually. But next up is Small Mary. Except it's not Small Mary, it's a really awful hack of Pac-Man. Yeah, the music has been hacked up to sound awful. And instead of being Pac-Man eating dots, you know, with a weird looking monster eating Cheerios. Not really my breakfast cereal of choice, but whatever. I'm just going to skip to the end of this bit of footage because I can't be bothered to watch it anymore. Because there's really not much else I can say about that hack. And now we have Rescue Cook again, except it's not, it's actually Boat Race, which is another hack of F1 race, and one that's not really as good. For one thing, they've managed to spell score wrong, even though it was spelled correctly in the original game. I really don't understand that. And the graphics, they don't look as good as they do in Boat Race. I mean, to me, they just look a bit amateurish. I mean, for one thing, the whole like colour flipping thing with the scroll effect at the bottom, to me that just looks awful. And that, and also the fact that the water's blue and purple, that just doesn't look right to me. But anyway, Balloon Fight or Balloon Fight, which is actually a really awful Tetris rip-off, and I do mean awful because the controls in this one are pretty bad. Because if you hold down, the pieces just drop too quickly, in my opinion. Another problem is that, like, I try to position the T block here to go to like fit the gap where the other block is. The game wouldn't let me, so I had to leave a gap there, which is just stupid. And yeah, that's what really ruins this version. I have another version of this on another plug and play, the Gunfighter, which has, it's basically the same thing with better music, pretty much, essentially. And yeah, I think that'll be enough of that. As you can see, I made a Tetris. There's not even any sound effects in that one. But anyway, Devil World, which is actually twin cards. Odd. Odd that they use like names of real games on the menu and they're completely different games in the actual game or something. And as you can see, yes, Pikachu runs across the bottom of the screen for no apparent reason. Oh no, to me it seems kind of pointless making original games if you're going to rip off stuff for the game anyway. I mean, you know, you're just going to get sued either way. But yeah, it's basically just one of those match up the cards sort of games. So, really not much I could say about that one. And then we have Zippy Race, which is actually Awful Russian, and a very fitting title for this game, I shall say. Yep, it's another really awful Road Fighter clone. This one's a little bit less awful though. It has, the graphics are a bit better for one thing. There's a bit more colour, and you don't have to restart the stage when you die, which is good. But even so, it's still pretty awful. I mean, there's hardly any sound effects. The music is awful, and in general, it's just not as fun as Road Fighter. So Star Force, except of course it isn't. It's actually G3 Cobra of Sky. And this is Raid on Mungling Bay, albeit with different graphics. Basically, they just sort of took the original game and sort of redid the graphics so the game takes place in space. So here I am with what looks like a jackhammer. I know it's supposed to be a spaceship, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah, basically blow up the factories, or whatever they're supposed to be in this version. But I'm pretty sure it's the factories on that little screen that appeared before. Yeah, blow them up, and that's it. I've never been able to complete a level of this because Raid on Mungling Bay is a really odd game in my opinion. Like, I can never beat a level of it. Like, I can make some progress and then I just get blown up by a bunch of helicopters. It's bloody odd. It's actually a pretty decent game. But yeah, it's enough of that, I suppose. our old favourite. Yes, dur dur, as I like to call it. Sorry, I just like making that sound. It just sounds hilarious. Yes, the tale of a pig trying to catch weird-looking projectile things being thrown by a penguin while avoiding and, well, while failing to avoid a chicken man. Oh no, Load Runner, which is actually Contact Energy, which is a hack of Load Runner. I don't get this. Like, why did they use the real names of the games if they're going to use the hack versions of them? I really don't understand that. So, you might as well just call it Contact Energy on the menu. Like, I never understood why they did that. Oh no, I think they like originally had a different set of games, and then they put the set of games in for this one, and they couldn't be bothered to change the names on the menu or something. That's what I'm guessing. I could easily be wrong on that. But yeah, it's just loading with different graphics and music. That's really just about it. So from there, it's the exact same game. So yeah, just finishing off the first level here. And yay, I win! Just climb up the vines here. Again, could be ripped off from Super Mario Bros. 2, not really sure. But yeah, they didn't bother changing this tune. And yay, I got some points. Oh yeah, I've also just noticed the sprite you're playing as is actually the bloke from Rescue Corps.